U.S. pauses Mexico and Canada tariffs for 30 days. United Nations negotiations. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Shuhaida Arifin. The President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, is set to undertake an official visit to Malaysia on 4th to 5th February, marking his first trip to the country since assuming office in December 2016. Mirziyoyev will be accorded an official welcoming ceremony at the Perdana Putra complex in Putrajaya tomorrow, followed by a meeting with Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim. During the meeting, both leaders are expected to review the progress of Malaysia-Uzbekistan bilateral relations following the Prime Minister's official visit to Uzbekistan in May last year, particularly in trade and investment, the halal industry, education, connectivity and tourism. President Donald Trump has delayed the start of tariffs on Mexico and Canada for a month after the U.S. neighbors struck last-minute deals to tighten border measures against the flow of migrants and the drug fentanyl. Global stock markets has slumped as Trump's threat of sweeping 25% levies on exports from Canada and Mexico to the United States sparked fears of a global trade war. But after calls with Trump just hours before the U.S. tariffs were due to take effect, both Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum struck deals for a postponement. Trump said that after very friendly talks with Sheinbaum, he immediately paused the tariffs on Mexico and that his counterpart had agreed to send 10,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexico frontier. Tensions appeared higher between the US and Canada, but after two separate calls, Trump later said he was very pleased and was announcing a 30-day halt in the tariff. He explained that Canada had agreed to ensure a secure northern border and to finally end the deadly scourge of drugs, such as fentanyl, that have been pouring into the country. Trump added talks on the final deals would continue with both countries. On a related note, European leaders have warned that US President Donald Trump's threat to expand tariff to the EU risk igniting a trade war that would harm consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen said the EU was aware of the potential challenges in US trade relations, but was ready for them. She noted that when targeted unfairly or arbitrarily, the European Union will respond firmly. She said EU leaders wanted to be pragmatic, engage early discussions and negotiate with Washington if necessary. She added they knew the European economy had to become more competitive to have the necessary strength to handle any trade tensions.
And against the backdrop that we know that there is a lot at stake, we discussed ways to strengthen a very pragmatic cooperation with the United States. There are clearly new challenges and growing uncertainties, so the European Union is prepared for a robust but constructive dialogue with the United States.
EU diplomats said the 27-nation bloc had a range of possible responses to any US action, but wanted to see Trump's next move before finalizing anything, and the aim for now is to avoid pouring fuel on the fire. Trump said on Sunday the EU was next in line following his decision to impose sweeping tariffs on Mexico, Canada and China, but he paused the new tariffs on Mexico and Canada for 1 month. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met El Salvador President Nayib Bukele as he continues efforts persuading Latin American countries to do more to stem migration to the U.S. southern border. Rubio met with Bukele and El Salvador's foreign minister at Bukele's residence on Lake Cotepeque, just outside the capital. Without providing details, Bukele said they were finalizing an even larger agreement, adding that Rubio would later announce the agreement. Bukele was asked if the two countries had reached a new safe third country agreement for the U.S. to deport migrants from other nations to El Salvador. Bukele is seen by the Donald Trump administration as a key ally in its migration efforts in the region. The Salvadoran president has launched an unflinching security crackdown in his country, arresting more than 80,000 people and bringing the number of homicides down sharply. His policies are credited by Washington with reducing the number of Salvadorans seeking to enter the U.S. illegally. UN member states have launched negotiations on a global tax accord, seeking to tackle in particular evasion by wealthy individuals and businesses, but the United States promptly quit the talks. Egyptian official Rami Youssef, chair of the United Nations Negotiating Committee that is set to run until 2027, said there is a need to craft a framework convention that redefines fairness, transparency, equity in the international tax system. He said it is a moral imperative and not merely a technical exercise, denouncing billions of dollars lost annually to profit shifting, harmful tax competition, and illicit financial flows that could be going towards global development goals. Currently, international tax issues are largely decided by wealthy members country of the Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Developing nations, which are also pushing for a larger overhaul of international financial systems, have criticized their exclusion from the decision-making. The United States, meanwhile, announced its withdrawal from the negotiating process, with its representative saying the goals of the accord are inconsistent with U.S. priorities and would unacceptably hamper nations' ability to enact tax policies that serve the interests of their citizens, businesses, and workers. Belgium's new government was sworn in, ending months of a political deadlock over forming a stable coalition government. But De Wever, leader of the Flemish Nationalist and VA party that won the federal election last June, took office as Prime Minister. This marks the first time that the Flemish nationalist leads the federal government. The swearing-in ceremony took place at the Royal Palace, where De Wever and 14 ministers took the oath before King Philip. The new coalition, known as Arizona Alliance, brings together 5 major parties: the N-VA, the Flemish Christian Democrats, the Socialist Vooruit, the French-speaking Reformist Movement, and the centrist Les Engagés. A deal was finalized by the 5 parties late Friday after months of difficult negotiations over budget cuts, tax hikes, and pension reforms. The Arizona coalition has also outlined priorities including increased defense spending, healthcare reform, and stricter asylum policies. A Stockholm court has convicted a man of inciting ethnic hatred during 4 Quran burnings in 2023. The verdict came just days after the murder of his co-dependent Salwan Momika. Momika, a 38-year-old Iraqi Christian, was shot dead late Wednesday in an apartment southwest of Stockholm. The Stockholm District Court was to have published its verdict against Momika and 50-year-old Salwa Najem the following day, but postponed it until yesterday after Momika's killing. In a statement, Judge Goran Lundal stated that while freedom of expression allows for factual and objective criticism of religion, it does not give anyone the right to say or do anything without the risk of offending religious groups. The court found Najem guilty of 4 counts of agitation against a national or ethnic group. The 2 men were accused of desecrating the Quran, including by burning it, while making derogatory remarks about Islam on 2 of the occasions outside a Stockholm mosque. The judge said even if the motive was to criticize the religion of Islam, the actions and conduct exceeded by a clear margin what constitutes a factual debate and criticism. On all occasions, the demonstrations expressed contempt for the Muslim group. Hamas ready for negotiations on phase 2 of Gaza truce. The Office of Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas denounced an Israeli occupation in the occupied West Bank as ethnic cleansing, with the Health Ministry saying Israeli forces killed at least 70 people in the territory this year.
In a release statement, spokesman Nabil Abu Rudaina said the Palestinian presidency condemned the occupation authorities' expansion of their comprehensive war on the Palestinian people in the West Bank to implement their plans aimed at displacing citizens and ethnic cleansing. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Ramallah said there had been at least 70 fatalities in the West Bank since the beginning of this year, with children, women and elderly people among the dead. It said the figures showed at least 38 people were killed in Jenin and 15 in Tubas in the north of the West Bank. The Israeli military launched a major offensive in the West Bank on 21st January, allegedly aimed at rooting out Palestinian armed groups from the Jenin area. Rudaina said the Palestinian presidency demands the intervention of the U.S. administration before it is too late to stop the ongoing Israeli aggression against the Palestinians and their land.
Hamas is ready to begin talks on the details of a second phase of the ongoing truce in Gaza. An official said Hamas had informed the mediators during ongoing communications and meetings held with Egyptian mediators last week in Cairo that the group was ready to start the negotiations for the second phase.
According to the official, Hamas calls on the mediators to ensure that the occupation adheres to the agreement. Another official, meanwhile, said the group is waiting for the mediators to initiate the next round. Under the terms of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, the first phase of which came into effect on 19th January, indirect talks to hammer out the details of phase 2 were due to start on Monday. The 42-day phase 1 revolves around the release of 33 Israeli hostages in exchange for around 1,900 prisoners, most of them Palestinian, being held in Israeli jails. The second phase is expected to cover the release of the remaining hostages and include discussions on a more permanent end to the war.
The United Nations has warned that Russian forces have been killing more captured Ukrainian soldiers over recent months, echoing growing allegations from officials in Kyiv.
Moscow and Kyiv have accused each other of committing war crimes, including killing prisoners of war since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022. The United Nations monitoring mission in Ukraine said that since the end of August last year, it had recorded 79 such executions in 24 separate incidents by Russian forces. Head of the mission, Daniel Bell, said these incidents did not occur in a vacuum, adding that public figures in the Russian Federation have explicitly called for inhumane treatment and even execution of captured Ukrainian military personnel. She also said that the mission had recorded one execution by the Ukrainian armed forces of a wounded and incapacitated Russian soldier last year. Referring to the killings by Russian forces, Ukrainian Foreign Ministry Andriy Sybiga suggested, without providing evidence, that they could constitute one of the largest campaigns of international prisoners of war murder in modern history.
French railway police shot and seriously wounded a man wielding a fake gun who had been spraying swastikas at a busy Paris train station. A second man, a taxi driver, was hit in the foot by a stray bullet and taken to the hospital.
An officer opened fire when the man who was spray painting swastikas at Austerlitz station in the southeast of the capital appeared to brandish a handgun. Prosecutors said the weapon turned out to be fake. He was later declared brain dead. A witness who initially thought it was an argument described the scene as chaos, with some people running for safety. The officer who fired his weapon is in custody while the incident is being investigated.
Gunfights shook a Mexican border city plagued by drug cartel-related violence, forcing the suspensions of flights at the local airport.
The violence in Nuevo Laredo, just south of Texas, followed by the arrest of an alleged local cartel leader, Ricardo Gonzalez. The U.S. consulate in Nuevo Laredo issued a security alert saying that it had received reports of multiple gunfights throughout the city. It added U.S. government personnel were advised to shelter in place. Local authorities, meanwhile, asked residents not to leave their homes. According to Mayor Carmen Lilia Conturosas, Nuevo Laredo Airport cancelled flights and was expected to reschedule them for today. Gunfights are common in Nuevo Laredo, one of the Mexican cities most affected by drug-related violence.
Earthquake fears have prompted people to flee Santorini as Greece's most popular island destination continues to be hit by what scientists describe as a barrage of tremors. Residents, tourists and workers are scrambling to leave the island on ferries and planes.
By midday yesterday, Aegean Airlines, the national carrier, had announced it was doubling the number of flights from Athens to Santorini for the next 2 days. Ferry companies said they would also put in extra services as the uptake for passenger tickets on boats soared. Tremors have been recorded between the volcanic islands of Santorini and Amorgos in the Aegean Sea since Friday. Disaster response units were deployed on the ground as a precaution. Schools in Santorini and the surrounding islands of Ios, Anafi and Amorgos are to remain shut until Friday. Britain and France issued travel warnings urging their nationals to follow the advice of local officials. Experts have said the seismic activity on the island, some of whose most populated areas are perched on steep cliffs, will continue for weeks.
Salvage crews have recovered parts of the fuselage of a passenger plane that plunged into the Potomac River last week after colliding with a U.S. Army helicopter, killing 67 people.
A large crane, assisted by a smaller one, gingerly pulled the twisted wreckage of the Bombardier CRJ-700, operated by American Eagle Airlines, out of the water and placed it on a barge. An engine from the regional passenger jet was also recovered from the icy waters. 60 passengers on the plane and 4 crew members were killed in Wednesday's accident, along with 3 soldiers aboard the U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. There were no survivors. Local authorities said 55 bodies have been recovered and identified so far, and they expressed confidence they will locate all of the victims. The National Transportation Safety Board is expected to compile a preliminary report within 30 days, though a full investigation could take a year.
Uganda has started the first ever vaccination trial for the Sudan species of the Ebola viruses 4 days after an outbreak was confirmed.
It is the 6th time Uganda has been hit by an outbreak of the Ebola Sudan virus, for which there is no approved vaccine. Of the 5 other Ebola species, just 1 has licensed vaccines. The World Health Organization said it had supported Uganda health authorities in getting the trial ready in the days following the announcement that a 32-year-old male nurse had died of Ebola in Kampala. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the vaccination trial was initiated with record speed. He said the trial, launched at a ceremony in Kampala by Uganda's health minister, demonstrates the importance of investing in research and development for vaccines and treatments and outbreaks response preparedness.
sports, Chelsea up to 4th after turnaround win over West Ham. Right, we'll begin our sports segment with hockey. Malaysia were trounced 12-4 by Germany in their opening 2025 Men's Indoor Hockey World Cup Group B match in Porek, Croatia.
Nicholas Broska and Ben Hagbach top scored for Germany with 4 goals each at the Zatika Sports Centre. Paul Dodge, Alec von Schwerin, Anton Bokel and Mac Silanoglu chipped in with 1 apiece for Germany, who are coached by Yen Rebente. Malaysia, under the guidance of coach Muhammad Ruzanizam Matrazi, replied through Abdul Khalid Hamirin in the 4th and 25th minutes, Muhammad Firdaus Omar in the 11th minute and Muhammad Najmi Farizal Jazlan in the 23rd minute. Malaysia will take on Argentina later today and Iran on Thursday. Meanwhile, Muhammad Ruzanizam attributed Malaysia's heavy defeat to mistakes made by his players.
Ada beberapa kesilapan kecil, kesilapan mudah yang dilakukan oleh pemain-pemain dan pasukan. Ini yang menyebabkan pasukan lawan ataupun pasukan Jerman dapat mempentingkan gol. Kalau diikutkan, bila kita lihat permainan, bukan dikatakan kita tidak boleh bermain, kita bermain dengan baik. Cuma kesilapan ini yang menyebabkan pihak lawan dapat menjadikan gol.
He also stressed that the national team must win the next game against Argentina today.
Moving on to football, Chelsea struggled back from a goal down to beat Graham Potter's West Ham United 2-1 with a second-half strike from substitute Pedro Neto and an own goal by Aaron Wan-Bissaka, lifting them to 4th place in the Premier League.
Jared Bowen, in his first game back after a month out with a foot fracture, put the Hammers ahead when he pounced on a back pass by defender Levi Colwill 3 minutes before half-time and fired a left-foot shot past Flip Jorgensen in Chelsea's goal. The host looked brighter after early substitutions, and Neto snatched their 64th minute equaliser after latching onto a ricocheted shot from a teammate Enzo Fernandez. After a lengthy VAR check for offside, the goal was given. Cole Palmer created Chelsea's second 10 minutes later, crossing the ball in front of a goal where Aaron Wan-Bissaka deflected it into his own net, much to the despair of former Chelsea manager Potter on his return to Stamford Bridge. The result lifted Chelsea above Newcastle United and Manchester City into 4th spot, 4 points behind 3rd place Nottingham Forest. West Ham United are 15th on 27 points.
In the Asian Champions League, Roberto Firmino and Riyad Mahrez were on the score sheet for Al Ahly in a 3-1 win away to Al Sadd.
Qatari captain Akram Afif gave the host the lead just 48 seconds after kick-off when he ran onto a through ball down the wing before chipping goalkeeper Edward Mendy. A sublime bicycle kick from former Liverpool star and Brazil international Roberto Firmino, however, brought the Saudi side level in the 10th minute. Al Ahly then took the lead in the 39th minute through Brazilian defender Roger Ibanez after Al Sadd failed to clear the lines from a corner. 10 minutes from full-time, Ivan Toney combined with another former Premier League star, Riyad Mahrez, playing a cutback for the Algerian to score and ensure all 3 points were heading back to Jeddah. With one match now left in the league phase, Al Ahly sit top of Group B with 19 points, 3 clear of Saudi rivals Al Hilal. Al Sadd, who have also already secured qualification for the round of 16, are 4th on 12 points.
In another match, Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice on the night when John Duran made his debut in Saudi Arabia. Al Nassr trounced Al Wasl 4-0 in the Asian Champions League.
Ali Al Hassan had given Al Nassr the lead in Riyadh with a low-driven, long-range shot in the 25th minute. Ronaldo then stepped up to convert a penalty on the stroke of half-time before scoring a 78th minute header to bag a brace against the Emirati side. Mohamed Al Fatil added a late 4th for Al Nassr, who already booked their berth in the next round, sit in 3rd place with 16 points. Al Wasl, meanwhile, are 5th in the Group B with 11 points, having also ensured their place in the round of 16 prior to match day 7.
Aston Villa added to Unai Emery's attacking options, with the signing of Marco Asensio on loan from Paris Saint-Germain for the rest of the season.
Asensio won the Ligue 1 title in his only full season at Paris Saint-Germain after a 9-year spell at Real Madrid. But the Spanish international saw limited playing time in recent months and has not made a single start since November. A 3-time Champions League winner during his time at Real Madrid, Asensio joins Marcus Rashford, who arrived on loan from Manchester United on Sunday in a new-look Villa forward line. Emery was keen for reinforcements after the departure of Colombian striker John Durand to Saudi Pro League side Al Nassr last week for a reported $79 million. Dutch forward Daniel Malen also joined the Birmingham-based club earlier in the window from Borussia Dortmund. Villa had qualified for the last 16 of the Champions League on their return to European football's elite competition for the first time since 1982-1983.
In tennis, the second-seed Daniil Medvedev weathered a stormy first set against a spirited Stan Wawrinka before advancing to the second round of the Rotterdam Open.
A 3-time Grand Slam winner Wawrinka, the 2015 champion in Rotterdam, edged a grueling 29-shot rally to save set point at 4-5 in the first before prevailing on his fourth attempt at set point in the tie-break. World number 7 Medvedev, however, responded immediately, breaking Wawrinka in the first game of the second set. As the 39-year-old veteran's energy faded, Medvedev, who has not lifted a tour-level title since May 2023, the same year he was victorious in Rotterdam, ran away with a 6-7, 6-4, 6-1 victory. It is the Russian's first win over Wawrinka in his last 3 attempts, improving their head-to-head record to 3-2 in Medvedev's favor. If Medvedev can go on to seal the title this week, it would be the first time that the former world number 1 has won the same event twice after his previous 20 titles have all come at different tournaments.
And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, U.S. pauses Mexico and Canada tariff for 30 days. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Shuhaida Arifin from River to the Sea. Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching.